Welcome everyone to this session on mastering CRM for better results through testing and optimization. It's better to use the clicker. I'm Anjli. I'm a consultant and team lead on the strategic services team.
And I'm David, also a strategic services team lead. And I'd like to say that we're thrilled to be here today to do this talk and to see many familiar faces in the crowd.
Yes, indeed. So over the next 25 minutes, we'll explore how the process of testing and optimization can play a big role in elevating your CRM strategies, helping you to think about how to engage customers more effectively, uncover insights, and also boost your results. So let's dive straight in. So with firstly a stat. So according to Adobe, they show that frequent testing can yield more than 45% improvement in conversion and revenue. That's a massive opportunity for growth. So I'd like to ask you all, can I have a show of hands for those who are currently testing their campaigns, their CRM campaigns regularly? Great. Good number of campaigns, yeah. And hands up if you think there's room to improve how your teams are approaching testing today. Great. A lot of hands. This shows we're in the right room to unlock new potential together. So in this session, we'll start off with an introduction to testing. We'll understand and explore why testing is vital and demystifying the basics. Next, we'll look at testing in action through a framework and real-world case studies. We'll then tackle common challenges that marketers face when it comes to testing and practical tips to overcome them. And then we'll wrap up with some key takeaways to guide your CRM strategies moving forward.
So why is testing essential in CRM? First, testing reduces guesswork. When you're not testing, you're making assumptions on what will engage your customers. On the other end, with testing, you're able to make data-driven decisions with higher confidence. Testing also drives personalization. It helps you to target your customers in a way that truly resonates for them. For example, imagine you're testing, let's say, subject lines, and you're finding out that one has a 20% higher open rate than the others. In this case, why settle with guessing when we can know? Testing also encourages a culture of continuous improvement. Testing isn't just about one success, one campaign that's working well. It's about continuously learning and improving through time. And this is something that's fundamental in a market that's dynamic and where the customer behavior changes. Testing also is something that improves efficiency and reduces waste. Indeed, with testing, you'll be able to know what works. And by focusing on what works, you'll be able to save time, budget, and efforts. All this while maximizing ROI. And who doesn't want that? Another thing is that testing facilitates better measurement and learning. Indeed, testing helps you create benchmarks and approach future events in a better way. For example, with what you did last year during Black Friday, you'll be able to target your customers in a better way this year. And finally, testing quantifies impact for stakeholders. It helps you put a number on what you're trying to prove, on what you're trying to see. And for example, let's say that you're testing a revised CTA, and you're finding out that the click-through rate is 15% higher for what you're testing. This is exactly what stakeholders want to hear, and this makes it also easier for them to make decisions.
Right, so let's break down testing into the most common actionable methods. First up, we have test and control, which you're probably all familiar with. This method allows you to compare your results to a baseline and allows you to measure the true impact of your campaigns. It's perfect for understanding ROI and for avoiding guesswork. For example, have you ever wondered if your abandoned cart emails are really driving additional purchases, or if sending an onboarding journey is generating uplift in revenue? These are valid questions, right? And test and control can give you those answers with confidence. Next up, we have A/B testing. This is your classic head-to-head matchup where you're comparing two variations to see which one wins. It's best for testing one thing at a time, like figuring out if sending an email in the morning versus the afternoon is generating better open rates. Now, we understand that it doesn't make sense to add a control group to every campaign use case, but A/B testing is perfect in these situations to generate more learnings and insights for your future campaigns. The last example here, the common method, is multivariate A/B testing, which is your go-to for more complex campaigns, where it lets you test how multiple variables work together to drive results. For example, testing the combination of the placement of CTAs, banners, your copy, to understand the best performing layout in your website. So testing comes in different forms, and each serves a specific purpose depending on your campaign needs. Now, I shared a few examples, but testing can apply to many areas. For example, you can test the inclusion of dynamic features in your channels. This can include product recommendation models based on recent browsing behaviors. It could be countdown timers that update in real time, or even adjusting the language of your CTAs based on the engagement level of users, which is quite cool, and all feasible depending on the options that you have available, the tools that you have available in place for your CRM. Now, other elements that you can test include the offer, the frequency of communication, and more. As you can see here, the possibilities are endless. So whether you want to validate ROI, whether you want to test a single element or optimize a multifaceted campaign, there is a testing method that fits your needs, and each test will get you closer to what works best. Now, I would like to highlight the importance of testing. So here we have some of our benchmark results to show the impact of testing on CRM contribution, where we explored results among 100 Optimove clients from various industries. For those that don't know, CRM contribution is a powerful metric that allows marketers to understand how much of their overall revenue is coming from their marketing efforts. It's calculated by looking at the revenue uplift generated by your campaigns as a proportion of the total revenue coming from the business. So let's look at what happens when we incorporate testing into our campaigns. So in this chart, we have broken down our clients into groups based on the proportion of campaigns that include testing. And in the blue bars, we have the average CRM contribution generated by these groups. For example, for those who have campaigns between 0 to 20% of campaigns with testing are generating a 7% CRM contribution on average, meaning that 7% of the total revenue is coming from their marketing. Whereas those that have between 20 to 40% of campaigns with testing are generating a 19% CRM contribution on average. So from looking at this data, the results are clear. Trends indicate that more testing can lead to higher revenue or higher CRM contribution. Why? Because testing does not only improve the overall accuracy of CRM contribution, but it allows you to continuously optimize and therefore drive measurable revenue impact for your business. So through the process of doing more and continuous testing, more of your revenue can come from your marketing.
So technically, we'd like to test as much as possible, but sometimes it can be challenging. And this is due to limited resources and time. So therefore, it's important to focus where it counts. And here are a few examples. First, you have high-impact campaigns, such as big promos, big events. Here, these are campaigns where the stakes are high. Also, you have uncertain strategies, things that are unproven or risky. Here, by testing, you will be able to validate your assumptions and therefore reduce the risk. Testing also is very important for complex campaigns such as multivariate testing, long-term investments like loyalty programs, and also campaigns in a competitive landscape. To take the example I was talking about previously, Black Friday is a great example here. And finally, it's important to understand that testing isn't just a tool, it's a mindset. By focusing where it counts, you'll be able to continuously improve, have better ROI and CRM contribution. Now, working with Optimove allows us to see quite a wide number of CRM strategies, and this for a lot of industries. And when it comes to CRM success, there's a specific framework that comes back as a game changer, and it's called Scale. This framework is structured yet flexible and allows you to make data-driven decisions and continuously improve through time. And this is how it works. First, you have scope. Here, you'll be identifying the challenges or opportunity. What's working? What do we want to improve? In this stage, you'll be defining the hypothesis and the objectives. Then there's the creation phase. Here, you'll be designing the approach. How are you going to test? Is it going to be a simple A/B test, test control, something a bit more complex? Here also, other parameters. You'll have to define other parameters like the audience, the duration, and so on. Here, once again, we're defining the approach. Then afterwards, there's the analysis part. Here, we'll be trying to understand what the data and KPIs are telling us. Here, it's important to look beyond open rates. Look at conversion, engagement, behavioral shifts, or any other KPI that will help you to validate your assumption. Then there's the learning phase. Here, we'll be learning from the analysis part. And something that's important to say here also is that the results were, not, let's say, not always what we are expecting. So here, there's still, in this case, there will still be something to learn. And finally, there's the enhance phase, where we are applying the learnings and repeating. Here, you can either scale what you did so far. You could also revise what you did to improve the results. But either way, you'll be ready for the next test. Now, this is scale. And this, if you notice, everything here is connected, because at the end, you'll be testing again and again and again. And by doing so, you're creating a cycle of continuous improvement. And this is very important. Now, having said that, this is how it works. Let's take a look at a real example from our clients where they applied scale and see how it helped them in their CRM success. So the first case study today will be a case study from SodaStream. For those who do not know the brand, it's a brand belonging to PepsiCo that designs, manufactures, and sells home carbonation systems. And today we'll be looking at how, by using scale, they manage to reimagine the post-purchase journey to increase sales and engagement. So let's have a bit of context here. So SodaStream wanted to improve their sales and engagement in their post-purchase journey. To do so, what they did was to start focusing on one of the emails that we're sending, which was an educational one, called Tips and Tricks. How did the test look like? So here you can see version A, I'll be pointing with a laser, that was the initial version sent so far, which had educational content and a discount offer. Version B, on the other end, that you can see here on the right, was a new version that was redesigned based on versions A click map. So here, for example, this bit that you're seeing right now used to be at the bottom of version A. You cannot see it here because it was cut. And since this was engaging a lot the customers in version A, they decided to move it to the top of version B. Other things they did here was to include a revised CTA, or more compact template, personalized imagery. And the biggest change was that in this alternative version, there were no discounts. So in order to define if this campaign was a success, they decided to look at two KPIs. The first one was click-through rates, and the second one was the uplift in total order amount. Now let's take a look together at the results. So here you can see a graph where in light blue you have the results for the discount-driven offer, which is version A, and in dark blue you have the personalized design offer, which is version B. Here, what can we see? We can see that for engagement and also click-through rates, version B was significantly higher. And when we look at the order amount KPIs, we can also see that the uplift was positive and better for version B. Now, in other words, we can say that version B won. Now, what did SodaStream learn from this process? They learned that by applying a data-driven approach and using personalized imagery, they were able to outperform a discount offer, a discount approach. And based on that, what were the next steps here? So the first thing here is that they decided to scale version B, to have more customers receiving it. The second thing here is, since they saw that it was successful here, they decided to start doing the same thing for other discount offers in their post-purchase journey and educational emails. And finally, the last thing that they are going to be doing here is to continue to learn on version B. Do further testing. See if there's another way, a better way to drive engagement and sales. So here is a perfect example of how scale could lead to CRM success and how data-driven decisions can give to SodaStream a better option for their tips and trick email.
All right. Next up, let's look at how interactivity can transform email engagement. So in this case study, DAZN, who are a sports streaming service, wanted to understand and experiment with using polls in their emails to see if that drives excitement, boost engagement, but ultimately increase pay-per-view conversions. And I would say this is a really great example of how small interactive elements can have a huge impact. So in terms of the context, again, DAZN wanted to understand if incorporating polls in their emails would encourage users to interact more and therefore drive engagement and increase pay-per-view buys. To test this, they ran an A/B test where version A had no poll, just a standard layout, standard content, whereas version B included an interactive poll whilst keeping everything else the same. Following this test, the results were clear. Version B outperformed version A, so version B with the poll, with a 4% increase in click-through rates, which equated to an additional 50,000 visits to the platform. But even better, they drove an additional 3,000 conversions from this test, from incorporating a poll. So based on these results, what did DAZN learn? Firstly, polls are incredibly effective at capturing the attention of users, as well as driving clicks. But even more exciting, it drove conversions, contributed to increased pay-per-view conversions. So this tells us that fans want to interact. They want to feel more involved, especially around key sporting events. So what did DAZN do next? Firstly, they redesigned their pay-per-view emails to incorporate polls and other interactive elements for sustained engagement. But even more powerful, I would say, they built a continuous testing plan to experiment with more variables like the CTA language or placement, whilst capitalizing on sporting events or moments to keep fans engaged. So again, I would say that this is a great example of where small creative elements like adding a poll can make a huge difference in driving sales and engagement whilst being paired with ongoing testing and optimization.
So far, we've seen that testing is something essential for CRM success. But we also know that testing comes with challenges, and I'm pretty sure that everybody here faced them. So here what we'll be doing is to go through the most common hurdles together, and for each of them, we'll give you solutions. First, not having enough data. When you don't have enough data, what we advise is to start with high-impact campaigns, campaigns that have a higher duration, extend the duration of your campaigns, and also use proxy metrics like click-through rates. If the results are inconclusive, what we advise to do here is to extend the size of the target groups if you can, and refine your test design by looking at directional trends. For example, if you see that there's a specific subgroup within your target group that reacted in a better way to your campaign, try to exploit that, discover new things, and learn and continue testing based on that. If testing feels too complex or time-consuming, which often happens, here we advise to start with simple A/B tests. Use automation tools and streamline processes. If you don't know what to test, here, in this case, what we advise to do is to look at previous campaigns. There's a lot to learn from that. Look at industry benchmarks, and also learn from your customers. Leverage their feedbacks. When stakeholder buy-in is lacking, in this case, what we advise to do is to start with a quick wins test. Show them campaigns that increase ROI, and share with them the results in a way that will convince them with nice visualization. And finally, when test conflicts with broader campaign goals, what we advise to do is to be as much as possible organized. Schedule everything. Talk to your team members. Talk to stakeholders. Have everything scheduled and organized from an early point to avoid that. So here, what you can see is that for each of the problems, there's a solution. And this is our mindset. We know that there are many more things that could happen, but remember, there will always and often be a solution for them.
So let's break down the framework that David shared into actionable tips to keep your testing focused, impactful, and scalable. So firstly, within scoping. Start by involving your stakeholders early and brainstorm hypotheses that align with business goals. But don't guess. Use historical data, use customer feedback to create hypotheses that are actionable but realistic. And lastly, not every idea is worth testing. We understand that. But prioritize those with the highest potential impact using tools like the ICE framework, if you're familiar with that, impact, confidence, and ease. When testing, keep it simple. Focus on testing one thing at a time, like the subject line, the CTA, to ensure that results are clear. Secondly, make sure that your audiences are large enough to understand statistical significance, or run tests long enough to account for patterns like weekday versus weekend behaviors. And a pro tip, guys, document everything. Your audience, your variables, your test designs, to make sure that processes are replicable and transparent to those in the business. Under-analyze, firstly, define what success looks like before starting the experiment by setting clear KPIs like click-through rates or conversion goals. Secondly, monitor your data regularly, but have dashboards and reports in place so that you understand what success looks like, what works well, what works less well. And when you're understanding your results and reviewing them, account for external factors like holidays or promotions that can skew results. If you measure well, you can trust your insights. Now, once you have your results, compare them to benchmarks, historical data to see how you've improved. But don't stop there. Use qualitative feedback, like from surveys, from focus groups, to add more color and depth to your insights. And I think David mentioned this earlier, even if a test fails, learn from it. It's valuable information about what does not resonate with your users. And then lastly, we have enhance. Use what you've learned to scale what works. This includes automating successful strategies whilst continuously testing to refine small tweaks. It can include expanding on winning variants to larger audiences. And don't forget to schedule periodic reviews to ensure that your optimizations are aligned with customer needs that tend to evolve over time. So this framework here isn't just a checklist. It's a continuous cycle of improvement. And by staying customer-centric, investing in the right tools, and also fostering this test and learn culture, you will ensure that every test will drive and create measurable results, as well as deeper insights into your audience.
Okay, so thank you very much for all these tips. And now let's sum it up and look at the 3 main takeaways we want you to take from this talk. First, start testing to uncover what works and to personalize your CRM strategy. If you're not testing, you're guessing, and this doesn't lead to growth. And also, with testing, you will be able to make data-driven decisions with high confidence, and also to personalize your customer journey, which is essential in a competitive market. Another thing here is to use the scale framework to drive continuous improvement. This continuous improvement is something that's fundamental, because as Anjli said, customer behavior changes through time. A lot of tastes also trends, so it's important to continuously learn on your customers to be able to target them in the best way possible. And finally, build a test and learn culture to make data-driven decision a core part of your marketing approach. Make testing part of your DNA. Try to share as much as possible with your team members, stakeholders. And once again here, something I'm going to tell you is that our most successful clients are the ones who test the most. Having said that, here I have one action for you. Start testing today. Take one item from your CRM strategy, may it be a subject line, a revised CTA, or whatever, and use the scale framework. Remember, small changes lead to big impacts when they're guided by data. Thank you very much for listening.
Great. Yeah, thank you everyone again for joining this session. If you do have any questions or would like to learn more, please visit us and other team members in Optimove Zone. And don't forget to rate this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.